quaint, shallow-draft gunboat, especially built for service on the Yangtze, picks up its convoy, the Standard Oil tankers, and speeds to safety. A Chinese hitchhiker, the native laundryman who serves the Panay, decides that hooking a tow is the quickest way to get out of range of the Japanese shell fire. Far from the terror of the Japanese crossfire, the Panay finds what is thought to be a quiet, restful place. All about the American gunboat in her upstream haven are other vessels crowded to the gunwales with refugees, most of them Chinese employees of the Standard Oil Company. One boat with crowded decks looks more like an excursion steamer bound on a holiday than a mercy ship bearing scores from scenes of strife and desolation in the unhappy city. A warplane circles overhead, a sight so usual these hectic days that it's only to awaken the curiosity of Captain Hughes and his companions on the Panay. Many of them join him at the rail, watching the evolutions of the bird of death. Destiny, hand in hand with tragedy, her human sister, paces the skies to an accompaniment drone by the rhythmic beat of the motor. A quiet Sunday afternoon, shortly after lunch. Officers of the Panay and several of the refugees are chatting in the wardroom when suddenly planes appear. The ship has been bombed by Japanese Navy planes. The call to battle stations, and the Panay crew rushes to defend their craft against the sudden, unwarranted, unheard-of attack. The ship's machine gunners go into action, some of them half-clad. The captain is wounded, so are others. The ship is a shambles, but whatever the cause of the unmerciful attack, the Panay men will fight to the end. She's vitally hurt.
Imperiled by stray shells of wild artillery fire, the Panay steams up the river. The Japanese launch. This is a prelude to the catastrophe. They identify the Panay and note its course. 20 miles up the river from Nanking, suddenly from the sky, without warning, bombs. The gunners fight back at the assailants from the sky. No panic, just Navy discipline. On deck, men fall stricken as the bombing continues. And that's how the bombs riddled the ship. Take to the boats. That's the order after half an hour of incessant bombardment. Wounded, blood-stained men first. The camera portrays heroism. Sights, but not sounds. There was no sound equipment aboard the Panay, only silent cameras. Abandoned ship. And some jump overboard and swim. The incessant air bombing, bomb after bomb, turning the Panay into shambles and wreckage. The last lifeboat, a motor sampan steering for the nearest land, and an oil tanker. 3 accompanied the Panay. The Japanese warplanes bombed them too. They take refuge on a small island, and there they can see the tankers burn. The well and the wounded on a deserted shore while war is flaming.
So abandon ship is the command. Getting the refugee passengers and the crew ashore is a desperate task. The wounded, of course, have first call. There's little time to lose as the famous vessel has received her death blow. She's settling fast. Other Japanese planes have joined the fight with bombs and machine guns. Even the loaded lifeboats are targets for the war-mad Japanese machine gunners. The riddled Panay bears her wounds bravely, but she is doomed without question. And now we go ashore with Norman Alley in one of the last boats to leave the ill-fated ship. Boatload by boatload, the Panay survivors reach the north shore of the Yangtze, where they can find shelter from the Japanese planes, still raining lead mercilessly at everything that moves. Alley exposes himself to film the final moments of the gallant United States warship. And minute by minute now, she's nearer her end as she rapidly takes water and settles lower and lower. The first American naval vessel to be sunk under warlike conditions since the World War. An undeclared war, it's true, but one that has outraged all humanity by its ruthlessness and its horror. An undeclared war that spares neither men, women, nor children, that has little regard for treaties or neutrality. One of the Standard Oil boats was beached, and two others bombed and destroyed in the savage attack. And finally the Panay rolls over on her side and goes down in 10 fathoms. Goes down with her colors still flying, hanging in shreds from her gaff. It's an event that has shocked the world. Japanese forces are combing the river and the air. Panay survivors, virtually helpless ashore, take refuge in the tall reeds that line the river bank. The wounded are made as comfortable as possible, while their injuries are dressed, and leaders of the party make plans for reaching a point of greater safety than the comparative wilderness of the river bank. Electrician's mate C.H. Burke of Malacca, Minnesota, plainly shows the buffeting he got in the vicious engagement on the Yangtze. A piece of steel tore the throat of John Henry Lang, chief quartermaster, whose home is in Long Beach, California. Lang is pretty badly hurt, but he's taking it as stoically as his fellows, naval as well as civilian. The conduct of all draws from Captain Hughes the statement, "In my opinion, everyone acted with fine courage and initiative." And the commander's commendation goes out to crew and passengers alike. Many of the wounded are in precarious condition, far from proper medical supplies and the care they need to pull them through the second great emergency in a few short hours. The nearest settlement from which help may be expected is miles away from this spot and several miles inland from the river. The wounded can be taken along the river in boats, but any kind of movement is dangerous for Captain Hughes with his shattered thigh and for the Italian journalist Sandro Sandri, whose wounds, like those of storekeeper Ensminger of Ocean Beach, California, are extremely critical. Tramping slowly over rutted paths with the wounded on crude stretchers, the weary party makes its way over the interminable route to Hosien. Through the assistance of a Chinese-speaking attaché of the embassy staff, Chinese soldiers have been persuaded to aid the group in its painful escape from the wilderness. Two of the native military carry another heavy burden. These films taken by Norman Alley of the bombing and sinking of the gunboat Panay. The ragged band presses on, eager only to find medical aid for their even less fortunate companions. But for two men, Ensminger and Sandre, the effort is useless. In the village of Hosien, their wounds prove fatal. And their amazed survivors learn for the first time that Japan and America are not at war. The next stop is the town of Hanshan, and the weary band of survivors finds the first real rest and security since they were bombed. The miles of rough going along the riverbank have been a severe trial to the wounded, despite the wholehearted cooperation of Chinese soldiers and civilians. With all of the officers of the Panay wounded, Captain F.N. Roberts of the Army, military attaché at Nanking, takes charge of the party. And after all the wounded have been attended to, he arranges for the party to be transported back to the Yangtze, where they can be moved to Shanghai. The trip back is by sampan down narrow creeks and canals, slow and tiresome, but not as slow and tiresome as their long trek inland had been, under fear of bomb and bullets. Allie suffers from wounds too, but he's still able to do his share. The British ship Lady Bird awaits them. She was considerably damaged by Japanese shell fire at Wuhu, but she's not out of commission, and her mission is an errand of mercy for her American cousins. The United States ship Oahu joins the rescue fleet, and the American victims of the vicious bombing are put aboard to be carried to Shanghai by an impressive funeral flotilla. Bolsebus and Ensminger of the Panay's crew died from machine gun bullets fired at the lifeboat in which they were on their way to shore. The Panay survivors will never forget those hectic, horrible hours when American blood was shed by war-crazed culprits in an Orient aflame.